Germany, the dark secrets of the super-rich. It was September 2022 and 22-year-old Marie von den Benken was speaking at a digital marketing convention in Hamburg. She was young, attractive, and oozing confidence. A typical millennial influencer, but she was on talking about the usual stuff, like how to get perfect skin or where to buy cute clothes. No, Marie was sharing her secrets to making money, and boy, did she have a lot of it. According to Forbes, her family had a net worth of $1 billion. She didn't mention that though. Instead, she told the audience, "I have never been broke in my entire life." Now, not everyone appreciated her candor. One person tweeted, "German influencer Marie von den Benken just gave a talk at DEMS about how to grow your brand and make money. It makes me sick that someone who has never been broke in her life is giving advice on how to become an influencer." But that was nothing compared to what came next. Marie shared a photo of herself sitting in the audience at a previous DMX conference. She captioned it, "I'm pretty sure I was 13 here." Then she added this little detail, "My dad invested €5 million into the conference." Well, that caused quite the uproar. Many people called her out for flaunting her privilege. Others criticized her for being so crass. One journalist tweeted, "Talking about your private jet and casually dropping €5 million investments. Like it's no big deal," shows a worrying level of detachment from reality. But those were just the tip of the iceberg. The real story lay beneath the surface, hidden in plain sight. You see, Marie's family fortune had been built on something really dark and disturbing. Those deemed unfit, including Jews, Roma and Sinti, homosexuals, disabled people, and political opponents, were forcibly removed from their jobs. The government then exploited prisoners from concentration camps to fill the labor shortage. By the end of the war, over 3 million people had been exterminated. But the German economy was booming. Companies were reporting record profits. One of them was a baking company called Bal. Today, they're best known for their Leibniz cookies, a beloved German brand sold in almost every supermarket. But during World War II, they were doing something much more sinister. They were baking bread for prisoners at one of Germany's most notorious concentration camps. Working conditions were brutal and deadly. Guards oversaw slave labor, forcing prisoners to work long hours for little pay. If they couldn't keep up, they were punished brutally. Prisoners slept in crowded barracks and were given only enough food to keep them alive. Anyone who tried to escape was shot. But despite the horrors of the Holocaust, some companies thrived, including Balsen, their secret, exploiting forced labor. While other businesses struggled during the war, Balsen continued to expand. By 1943, they had a workforce of 2,000, including 1,200 prisoners from nearby concentration camps. It was a cost-saving move that allowed them to produce more than double the amount of bread for German troops and civilians. Of course, the company denied any wrongdoing. They claimed to have treated their workers fairly and humanely. But the truth is much darker. Prisoners at the Ravensbrück concentration camp near Berlin described how Balsen guards would watch them closely. If anyone slowed down or stopped, the guards would punish them by forcing them to stand in the corner until they collapsed. But it wasn't just the physical abuse. So the next time you reach for a cookie, ask yourself, is it worth the cost? Marie von der Benken was born into wealth. Her grandfather, Rudolf Oetker, founded the Dr. Oetker Company, which included baking powder, cake mixes and cookies. You see, when Rudolf took over his father's business in the 1960s, Germany was still licking its wounds from World War II. Everyone knew what the company had done and no one wanted to support them. So Rudolf changed everything. He diversified the product line, introduced new packaging and developed a strong brand identity. That's why today, very few people know about the dark secret behind the Dr. Oetker name. However, after Rudolf's death, his children began to investigate their family history. What they found was both fascinating and disturbing. On the one hand, there was the family's incredible success story. Their company had gone from a small bakery to a global powerhouse. On the other hand, there was the Nazi past. Rudolf had been a member of the Nazi Party since 1933. He used his position of power to exploit Jewish businesses and force them out of the market. He also profited from the war, supplying food to concentration camps and using slave labor in his factories. His children were shocked and appalled. They couldn't believe their father was capable of such cruelty, but they knew they couldn't hide it anymore. The truth needed to come out. So they started digging through old documents and interviewing family, friends, and employees. They uncovered a trove of disturbing information. For example, they learned that Rudolf had personally overseen the killings of several Jewish employees. He ordered them to be taken to the gas chambers, simply because they were Jewish. They also discovered that he had stolen millions of dollars worth of property from Jewish families who fled Germany during the war. He bought their homes and businesses for pennies on the dollar, knowing full well that they would eventually be killed. It was all very upsetting, but the children were determined to do the right thing. They donated millions of dollars to Holocaust museums and charities. They also released a public statement apologizing for their father's crimes. It was a brave move that earned them international attention, but it also put a strain on the family business. Customers started boycotting Dr. Oetker products. Sales plummeted, and the company's future was uncertain. But somehow they managed to survive. Maybe it was because people could unresist their delicious cookies, or maybe it was because they were sympathetic to the family's plight. Either way, Dr. Oetker survived the scandal and remains one of Germany's most popular brands. But the story doesn't end there. The Oetker family is still struggling to come to terms with their father's crimes. They'll never know the full extent of what he did, because he destroyed most of the evidence before he died. But they're trying to piece together the puzzle using old diaries, letters, and photographs. And what they've found so far is both heartbreaking and eye-opening. For example, they recently discovered a letter that Rudolf wrote to his son. In the letter, he admitted to profiting from the war and expressed remorse for his actions. He begged his son to forgive him and to ensure that the family name was cleared. It was a powerful moment that gave the children new insight into their father's character. They now know that he wasn't just a cold-hearted businessman. He was a complex man who was capable of great love and great hate. It's a tough legacy to live up to, but the Oetker children are determined to do their best. They want to honor the memory of those who suffered under the Nazi regime and make sure that their father's crimes are never forgotten. It's a tall order, but they're up for the challenge. After all, they're the heirs to one of Germany's most successful businesses, and they have the resources and determination to make a real difference. So next time you see a Dr. Oetker product on the shelf, remember the family behind the brand. They're not just a bunch of rich, entitled kids. They're trying to atone for their father's sins and make the world a better place. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen wealthy families struggle with their past. Take the Sackler family, for example. They're the richest family in America, but they've been accused of hiding their involvement in the opioid crisis. Or take the Walton family, who built Walmart into a global giant, but the company has been accused of exploiting workers and destroying communities. The truth is, many of the world's richest families have skeletons in their closets. They've built their fortunes on the backs of slavery, colonialism, and exploitation. And now they're struggling to come to terms with their past. Some are trying to atone for their sins, while others are doubling down and clinging to their wealth. But one thing's for sure. These families will never escape their dark history. No amount of money can erase what they've done. And the truth is starting to catch up with them. As investigative journalists uncover more and more information, these families are being exposed like never before. People are calling for greater transparency and accountability. But will these families be willing to give up their power? Only time will tell. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other content. We have some amazing videos that you might enjoy. Thanks for watching.